Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast with Michael Cole and Matthew Cravat. I am Michael Cole.
And I am Matthew Cravat.
Mike, you have my consent to
maybe
stream
change
this
your subtitle. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
That might be a little weird in this week's episode. What were you starting to say? Kick us
You
off.
have my consent to stream the video.
Oh, gotcha. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Tonight we are going to be talking about, a couple things, kind of. We're going to be talking about the idea of consent and kind of that like willful misunderstanding of consent, as well as what was the other part of the title that I threw in there?
Victim blaming, which is what I just wrote on my subtitle there. I was trying to remind you subtly, but you're stupid. So
yeah. So sometimes people are, or some people may be aware of Maddie Kowalski and that situation, that her story and situation. If you're not, let's do a quick recap, because that's kind of what kicked it off for me. Was she has been? I heard about the story a few months ago. It's gotten big again, or it was back in, because I think there's other similar stories that have been going on that she's been.
Yeah, I think she has become an advocate now. So her own story is now taken not a back seat, but a side seat to her advocacy based on it. Yeah.
Right. So she was I don't know if she still is, or a student at the University of Florida.
I think I was looking through some of her stuff, and I think I saw a Instagram reel where she said returning to school. So I think she's back.
She is a college student, and at the time was a University of Florida student who was, according to this article from The Nation, which I don't know if they're a good resource, but I just wanted the basic bullet points again. I couldn't find like a better one for the bullet points. She was allegedly gang raped and while intoxicated at a fraternity gathering, and I became familiar with it.
I think I'd say also in a bar, because it was in a public. It was like in the bar bathroom or something like that. So it was fraternity thing at the bar, but but I think it's important to know it was in a public place, which I think makes it worse.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. It wasn't just like locked away in a fraternity house where nobody knew. There should have been a building full of people who could have helped her.
Yes.
So I just want to throw that in there.
Yeah. So I saw something months ago of her, and I did, and a lot of times I have a lot of cousins that are younger and they comment and stuff on things, and it pops up in my feed, but then I have to go do the research of, I don't know what the hell this is. And so I found all that out, and when looking through the comments, there was as much, if not more, disgusting, terrible comments against her than in favor of her. And sometimes
which is what
that's what you see before you hear
now is about.
Right. Yeah. And that's what you see before you hear her stories, potentially. Like in my situation, I read about how she needed to take accountability and she needed to do this, and she was a, blah, 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 bad thing. And before I knew what the story was. And I was like, and I am always weary of people calling women, or calling anybody names online. I always want to look and see what the deal is. But like in this situation,
I'm referring to you, and I think I'm justified.
Yeah, absolutely. But people should verify that you're justified.
Yeah, that I'm talking about you. Yeah.
And so I went into and I looked into this, and apparently it was part of the reason why it's such a big deal is that it was videoed by, I can't tell if this was one or multiple people videoed it during the actual assault, and was then posted.
I think I would say she was apparently says she was blackout drunk, so she had no memory of it. So that's where consent comes in. She couldn't have given consent if she was blackout drunk, because she has no memory of it. Someone videoed it, and then it was multiple sexual partners in a bathroom at this bar. Apparently, someone recorded it. Don't know if other people knew about it. Like the facts of the issue haven't fully come out, because she has said she's not sharing all the details because it may go to court and she doesn't want to mess anything up. So for good reason, you don't know all the details. But then it was definitely posted without her permission, and shared and reshared and reshared and reshared without her permission. So it's multiple levels of lack of consent, the night of, and then the sharing of.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then people
And
doxed her, found
yeah,
personal pictures from her
doxed her
family's
family. Yeah,
accounts and shared things. So there's like there's no defending what the people who did, like
no,
like even if she was a porn star who made a movie professionally and they did this, everything they did afterwards was horrible and evil.
yeah. So, like, first of all, I want to dive into, I know that when sometimes we talk, not when we, you and I, but when society talks about rape culture, there is a lot of men and maybe even just people, maybe it's not just men, but that will say like rape culture is not a thing. This to me is the perfect example. This Brock Turner, those kind of situations is the perfect example
Almost
of
every rape is a perfect example,
sure.
unfortunately. Like the press,
Well,
the
but
public's response to almost
yes,
every one is a rape culture response.
but like yes, you're correct, and the fact that that defense attorneys know that you attack the woman's credibility or the victim's credibility, and there's so much, but something like this is so glaringly
Blatant.
obvious.
Yeah.
Um, and I was thinking about it because there's all these people talking about like, well, you shouldn't have gotten drunk, take some accountability, blah blah, which is obviously dumb. And I wanted to talk about because I think about the Brock Turner thing when I think about these cases too, because Brock Turner was like the one incident in which we heard more about the accused than the accuser, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and so like I wanted, one of the things that ended up, when they were sentencing him was like this idea of like one little incident shouldn't affect you. That's a big part of this rape culture thing is when we're trying to punish uh you know sexual criminals of regardless of the specific act. There's a concept of like, well, we don't want to, one is one bad incident or one mistake shouldn't affect the rest of their lives. But they use that other side of that coin logically, which is, well, she got drunk. Well, getting drunk is one bad mistake, and getting drunk is a bad mistake if assuming she didn't drive. That should only affect her. I'm not saying like I don't mean that
Right.
like to
Like she's described it as she made a bad judgment call and put herself in a position where people could take advantage of her.
right.
Being able to be taken advantage of is not a fault of your own. The taking
Right.
advantage is the evil part, and it's done by
Yes,
someone
yes,
else.
yes. Exactly. And so this concept of like one bad, that needs to be given, she needs to be given that grace. I mean, the idea that she needs to be given grace and that people don't understand that is crazy to me. But if you're one of these people who is thinking that she had any culpability in this situation, please start using that mentality that you've applied, that people have applied. It's almost the same, certainly the same people, right? To the Brock Turners, in which is like he made a mistake, he doesn't deserve to have his life ruined based on one mistake. I don't think that should be true with the Brock Turners.
I'm saying if you're
But
willing to say it for the rapist, you
yes,
should
that's
say it
what.
for the person who drank.
That's why I have Matthew on, so
Yeah.
that he can
Yeah. I get your
reiterate
point. It's very
clearly
solid.
what
Like we
what
don't
I
have
am.
it for the rapist. We're not giving him that doubt. But if
No, no,
you are
no.
saying,
But
well, a
if you
rapist
are,
shouldn't be punished for one rape, then a
yes,
victim shouldn't be punished for getting drunk.
right, exactly. And and the other thing is that like I can't imagine that most of these people that comment haven't been drunk before, haven't been ridiculously
But
drunk
here's
at one point
the
or
thing
another in their life.
with these people who are commenting. I kind of mentioned earlier, like she's the one telling the story right now because
Yeah,
right, like we don't know who the um perpetrators are. Like that's not been, they have not been out there
yeah,
telling their story. I didn't see anything online where any witnesses were telling their story. I've only seen summations of her point of view and watched her
sure,
videos where she talks about her point of view. Right. So that means that anyone who's defending the alleged rapist, I'll be legally sound, is doing it from their own imagination because they've not
yeah,
even heard a case made against her. They only are making up what they want to make up to straw man her and then take her down
yeah.
because she hasn't said, I did it willingly. So if you're thinking that she did, that's in your imagination. There hasn't even been a defense of that made by anybody who was there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's and
Like it's the
which
worst case of it that I've ever heard because usually you have the defendant saying, oh, she was asking for it. You don't even have that in this case because the
Right.
defendants have not told their story. They're not defendants yet.
Right. Well, and I would say that, some of those commenters and people who shared it probably have crossed some criminal lines as well, from what I've read. As far as like, I don't know what all the laws are around doxing
the resharing,
and stuff.
certainly, it's kind of revenge porn kind of thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh yeah. Well, that was part of it. Is like
the
some of
original
these things.
Well, actually, I should say the original posting for sure. I don't know about the resharing because it becomes the thing of, does the person who shared know that it was revenge porn when they shared it?
Fair. That's fair.
Because half of those people are saying she knew what she was doing. She made this video. Like, some of the insults are accusations of that. So that person could probably say, well, I thought, look what I said. I said that she knew it, that she put the video out there. Like, so how could I have knowingly shared something revenge porn if I thought it wasn't?
Yeah.
So, but still, what they've done is evil and shitty and horrible, depending on the exact wording of the law where they are, may be illegal.
Yeah. And the
but if you told me it's not illegal in Florida, I would believe you because it's Florida.
True. And I think that, like, when you look into, some of these accounts that have been commenting, so like, there's a difference between she was asking for it, which is shitty to say, and like, this was a quote from at the real John Hogg, which apparently is a fake account. It says, just received a call informing me that Maddie Kowalski's mom was in DZ, which I'm guessing is the sorority, Delta Zeta, I'm assuming.
I guess it could be Delta Zeta, yeah.
It was in DZ at UF, and I swear to God, her nickname was the Easy DZ. Someone please keep an eye on Mr. Kowalski. Like, these, like, again, is that criminal? No. But like, that is being paired with, here's where they live, and
could be defamation, but we have to have a court case to determine that.
Yes, yeah.
It could be criminal.
yeah. I mean, but not clearly, but yes, it could be. But when you start pairing that with, here's where her parents live, and here's where this,
I mean, if it was a random person, if you didn't know who she was, say, hey, did you hear there was some girl who did this? Her mom was this. That's one thing. But here's a person with their name. Their mom is now identified because you're saying even if it's the mom's name, say the girl's name. You have identified who you're talking shit about.
Yeah. And, it's an absolute shit show, and the fact that like people are participating in it. I will say, when I saw it first pop up a few months ago, it was one of my male cousins that I think he follows Maddie Kowalski, or followed the account that posted the video or something, and I was like, please, as I was learning more, I was like, please don't let me find anything.
What did you say when you shared it? When you shared information about it?
And I can't find anything on that. So luckily, I think that, as far as I can tell, my cousin is supporting her. But I was like a little like, oh fuck, But I am pretty horrified, and like, this obviously happens significantly more to women, but like, this is completely in line. Was it 2 weeks ago that we talked about the manosphere, or 3 weeks ago? I'm spacing on that. 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, I think it plays into everything, right? Because last week we talked about exploiting your children's videos online, and the week before that, the manosphere. This is the culmination of both of those concepts, right?
Yeah, this idea of like, everything that exists online is okay for me to say anything I want about it is a problem. The attitude towards women, regardless of, like, I don't care if she actually was 100% consenting to the, and it would not be a gang rape at that point, right? It'd be gang bang.
Isn't a good way to phrase it, because that sounds like you don't care either way.
Yeah.
But even if someone else had been engaged in a sexual encounter very consensually, if they were
with
filmed
10
against
people,
their will,
15
and that was shared against them, that would be a bad thing.
Right. And you commenting,
it's a worse thing when it's when it's rape, but it wouldn't.
Right.
But sharing revenge porn is sharing revenge porn either way.
and then being the person who comments on that, because that is it, that's its own separate crime. The person who's commenting on that being like, well, shouldn't have had sex with anybody if you didn't want it online.
And I haven't, I don't follow the same sources you do. So I mean, the research I did for it wasn't the same you did. So I didn't. I saw her. I watched her videos. Like she started an account on Instagram and on TikTok, I think, after the fact to say, that starts with, let me talk about what happened to me last December. So, so
I watched those months ago.
So I watched those, and she was talking. So I know the only thing I know about the comments is the way she talked about the comments. And I read one article about that was using her case as an example about the horrible kind of comments that are out there. And she was talking about like half of the horrible comments were about her body and about, and just personal attacks that weren't even related to what was happening, which is like, especially like she goes from women taking her apart. And she's like, how can you be doing that? It will be you one day, what?
Yeah. Yeah. That's its own problem that I don't quite know how to, I don't know how to address any of this necessarily, but like,
just
the fact
conceiving of it is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, do you not have any empathy at all if it's someone who's like you? Like it's bad enough not to have empathy for anyone, but not even someone who you could be in the situation.
Yeah. And I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. I also think like there was a few things. I don't think it was her. It was something recently though, where there was another news story and someone was like, remember the thing from 6 months to a year ago, the bear? This is why women felt safer with the bear. Like, and it's not that like, let's say it was, I don't know the numbers because the stories don't give specifics on what happens in the video. And I don't want to speculate, but I'm just going to throw out some hypotheticals here for a second. Let's say it's 5 guys in the video assaulting her. That's 5 guys that are, and you might be like, oh, it's just 5 guys that are bad guys. Not you, but like
just 5 guys.
The people who were like, how could you pick the bear? It's just the 5. It's just 5 guys. But then you add on how many people shared it, which fair, may not have only been men, but people that shared it, that did know what it was, that recorded it, that shared it knowing what it was.
The initial people who released it.
Right. So that's more than 5. And then all the people who commented knowing what she's alleging that like happened, whether all those people, we're looking at thousands of men. And in some cases, women too. But like, this is why you choose the bear. Like this, this is.
I think you choose the bear because every woman knows a woman if they're not, if they haven't been assaulted or almost assaulted, they know someone who has, but not by a bear. Nobody knows. They don't know someone who's been assaulted by a bear, except for Flower. But Flower died in 1969, so people don't know about her unless they can see ghosts.
Nope.
Dude, you have to watch the TV show Ghosts. It's fucking hysterical.
Okay, I will get to it.
I'll get my Flower reference because you don't want no Flower because watch Ghost.
Okay,
Flower mad at you, Michael.
Okay, but you said something I wanted to jump off right before you said made the Flower. Oh, as far as the like, everyone knows somebody that's every woman knows someone that's been assaulted. I used to say, and when I was in college, there was some people that I knew that were, this was not as clear cut. People weren't being as victim blamey as this, right? But they were to some extent being victim blamey. And I was like, how many people do you know? You don't have to tell me, but just think about it in your head. How many people do you know were sexually assaulted in some way? Now, that's the people you know were like, and we know for a fact that you don't know everybody.
Not everyone tells you.
Not everybody's public, right?
Everyone you know.
So, like at that point, when I was in high school, when I was in college, when this conversation would come up, I want to say the number was like 7. I knew like 7 people who had been sexually assaulted in some way or another, and I was like, and that's the ones I know of. And like, I would imagine that like the 7 people talked about it means that there's at least 7 people who didn't want to talk about it. So that number is always, and I know that now we have more specific statistics, but unfortunately, sometimes the thing that helps people is that anecdotal
personal experience.
Like, unfortunately people don't look at the, 1 in 4 women is raped. Well, I don't know any women that were, like they have to actually like hear about it, unfortunately. Um, like personally hear about it. Uh, and so I think that like we need to start thinking that way about like, and when you hear about, when we talked about the Manosphere video a few weeks ago, and the guy was like, I wouldn't want my daughter doing that. It's like, there is no doubt in my mind when you say things like that about OnlyFans models that I don't want my daughter being an OnlyFans model. That I really doubt.
But I will make money off OnlyFans models and have
Right.
them
Well,
on
I
my
was gonna say I
show.
really
Yeah.
doubt that if his daughter is assaulted. Now he doesn't have a daughter, so I don't feel too bad about talking about a hypothetical human being hypothetically being assaulted. But if
I
he
don't
doesn't,
care if she has a Greek name. That's still not right.
hypotheticus in the in the future, if he has a daughter and she's assaulted and he finds out about it, is he going to blame her? And I would say that he's going to blame her and mistreat her for that, whether that is shunning her or maybe even like fully cutting her out of his life or treating her in some other disparaging way. The answer, like when I hear people talk like that about things, I'm like, yeah, I think that there is a better than 50% chance that would do it. You would do it to some extent. You'd be like, what did you do to put yourself in that? If it was your own, not you and not me, but people who are like that mentality, right? I worry that those people are going to be bad fathers and brothers and sisters and wives and mothers that are be like, yeah, like if my daughter came home or my sister came home or whatever, I would, like I think that I
Well,
would,
if they're good biblical people, they would make sure that the person who assaulted their daughter married their daughter
yeah.
that's what the Bible says they have to do.
What does good biblical mean?
It means evil generally.
Yeah.
They live a nice biblical life.
It's the day after Easter. Um,
So here's the consent thing that since
sure.
we're
Yes.
at a conversation break, and I'll start a new part of the conversation.
Sure.
Easter eggs always do that. We always had that rule. Um, when I was in college in the 80s, because as we have established, I am old.
Yep.
My fraternity on
Fact.
a national level did tons of training with us. So it's like in the 80s, the term consent was not thrown around. Like we had we had just introduced in my era the no means no, right? That's what people were being told. Not that you
Hmm.
had to get positive consent, but if she says no, you should stop. Like that
Hmm.
was where we were in the consent world, right?
I will say, just to interject for 1 second, is last time I checked, because I remember reading about this in the last 10 years since I've lived here, North Carolina, it is, if you're having sex with someone and they try to revoke consent mid-sex, you do not have to listen to that, which is fucked up. You
Okay. I do
it's
have
so
I do have an anecdote about North Carolina law, and I don't know that part of it. Like, that doesn't phase into. But there was a case in the 80s where a football player burst into his girlfriend's dorm room and started to have sex with her while she was asleep, and it wasn't her; it was her roommate. And then after he finished and realized it was the wrong one, he then raped her anally. And when they went to court, he was found guilty of the sexual assault for the anal part of it, but not for the initial sex, because since she was unconscious, she couldn't have said no. And the law at the
Jesus
time was
Christ.
it wasn't consent, wasn't a conversation yet. Saying no meant no. That was even the law. So
Yeah.
since she couldn't say no, for the second time she was yelling no, no, stop. So that one he was found guilty of, but not for the first round, so to speak. So the law changed at that time to be you have to have positive consent
Yeah.
the law was written that way. But I was just saying, my fraternity, for as evil as the fraternity brothers seem to be in this story, they
Hmm.
drilled into our heads that you had to have consent. That, date
Yeah.
rape, the term was just starting to be used. And our
Yeah.
fraternity was so big on it that don't have us find out that your fraternity had a party where someone was drunk and you had sex with them when they were drunk. You pressured them into sex. If
Yeah.
someone is drunk, you wait until the next date.
Yeah.
You have a great time hooking up with someone when you're getting hot and passionate, but you've both been drinking. You stop and you say, you know what? I'd love to take you out again because we don't want to deal with this and you don't want to deal with this and you don't want to be the
Yeah.
person who did this, you know, and it needed to be drilled into your head that even if you're drunk, just like hopefully you don't drive when you've been drinking, even though you're your judgment is off, you know that's just a rule.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Don't take a chance. Same thing. Like if you've been drinking with your date and it's not your girlfriend who you've been with forever, it's a girl you met at a party and you're drinking together. You don't assume that just because you're drunk and you're saying, and both of you are saying yes, that it's really yes. If you've been drinking, the answer is no. And that was in the 80s. So I'm just to say that if we knew that in the 80s, okay, the late
Yeah.
80s, I'm not that old. We're recording this in 2026. What happened to Maddie
Hmm.
happened to her December 2025. There's no, and now they teach it. So my son was in college, graduated in 2020. Um, they're taught it in college orientation. Like we did it in the
Yeah.
fraternity house, and the goddamn independents did whatever they did. They were animals.
Hmm.
The goddamn independents would be people not in a fraternity. But like modern day, they're taught that in orientation.
Yeah.
Consent is drilled into them. I think they have, well, at least in my son's school, they had to sign like a consent pledge that they understand the rules of the consent, and they won't, that they can't claim I didn't know I needed consent. Like they have to sign like a waiver kind of thing as
Yeah.
part of that, like the training. So there's no way these kids didn't know what they were doing. Like there's no defense of, I
No.
thought we had consent of her if she was blackout drunk. I just wanted to
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. You're.
nip that defense of them in the bud before you made it, Mike.
Yeah. No. I will say I think that there are arguments to be made that like it's not that intoxication's not always 100% black and white, but like I think that this is 100% black and white, this situation. You
Why do you always
mentioned
bring race into it?
because chocolate diamond.
Media.
No, but I genuinely like, so like when I was with we had
That's so
these
bad because
conversations.
no one listening knows what that meant.
Yeah.
The chocolate diamond.
When I started my college orientation, which was 23 years ago, we
Oh,
had a
baby.
similar. I'm a baby. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah. If I had conceived somebody that weekend, they would be an adult that could drink. When
Like
I
all three of
was
my kids? Is that what you're saying? Like all three of my kids who are
sure,
adults who can drink?
yeah, but I'm like, like I get that like some of these things I say sound like young to you, but 20, I started college almost a quarter century ago.
You're not young. You're in your 40s. You're not young. You're on the downhill slide. I'm just older.
The back pain I have is proof that I'm not young. The amount I have
mine's in my shoulder right now.
For our listeners that are not aware, I was telling Matthew right before we started
Which is
recording.
all of you.
Well, yeah, probably. That I have 2 heating pads on my back right now because of how bad my back has been for weeks now. But I will say that like we've been taught the ideas of consent to in varying degrees since I was there, including alcohol. When I was in college, I had a girlfriend, and we had a conversation at one point, and I said, if you're drunk, because we were long term, this wasn't like date one. I asked her this. This was after we'd been together a while. I said, if you're drunk and you're trying to initiate, do you want me to say no, or what do you want me to do? Because I'm aware that like drunks can get aggressive, right? And so like a drunk that is like, come on, it's fine, it's fine. I was like, what do you want me to do if that's the case? And she was like, you have my permission ahead of time. So like, does that hold up legally? I don't know that does, but I think that it would not necessarily be, if she's.
I didn't have that conversation, but the first night that Madhavi was willing to sleep with me when we were dating, she was nervous about her plan to have sex, and she drank too much that night, and I turned her down because I was concerned that she had drank too much and she would regret it and be pissed at me. And then she was so mad at me that I didn't have sex with her because she wanted it to be over with, to have done it.
Yeah.
So now I got to get drunk again. It's like, well, we should have had that conversation.
Yeah, no, and after that, I had because after we talked about that, she would get insistent sometimes, and I'd be like, all right, but like I've never initiated with a drunk person, but I've had that conversation in every relationship now because I'm like, I'm not a big drinker, so I don't get drunk to the point of being like obnoxious. I'm just sober obnoxious.
You're just obnoxious.
Like, like I was like, if you're drunk and you're like, I'm really horny, Mike, like what, and that's how my girlfriends all sounded. what do I do? And so like having that conversation, like I said, does it hold? Would it keep me safe legally? I don't know. But like it is, because we were trained, and I'm probably old enough to be the parent of these kids, that these men that did this to Maddie Kowalski. Arguably, like I was probably at in college doing that orientation before they were born, right? So like based on college ages, that was 23 years ago. They unless they're seniors,
Yeah. Unless they're
yeah,
grad students, which would make
yeah,
it even worse.
yeah. So like these aren't new concepts, and neither is
Yeah,
I
and
hate to
part of
call it
the
slut shaming because that implies that she did something wrong, even that term, but you know what I
victim
mean?
blaming in this case, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
victim. Yes,
both,
exactly. Victim
right?
blame.
But both, but either way,
Yes.
whatever the case had been, and the reason I bring up the when I learned it and in what circumstances and stuff is kind of just to say there is no like people our ages
Yeah.
don't even have the excuse in the comment section
Oh yeah.
to say shit like because they should know better. There's
Yeah.
nobody who's able to use a computer who shouldn't know better.
Yeah.
Ping, ping, ping. Ricochet Rita in the comments was talking about her kids were learning it in pre-K. They were learning rudimentary
Oh yeah.
versions of bodily autonomy, and no means no, and no is a
Yeah.
complete sentence. You don't need
Logan.
to. And I say we taught our kids like that, even like for tickling and stuff. And so you don't want some
Yeah.
like my Leah should make my father stop tickling her and saying it's my body, don't touch my body when she didn't want to be tickled.
Yeah.
Which that wasn't necessarily every time she was being tickled, but when she didn't want it, she was able to
Yeah.
say, no, we'd be like, Dad, you have to stop. You can't think it's funny that she's saying no. That's not something we, and like he was like, but I'm not going to do anything wrong. But then I was like, yeah, but you're teaching her
Right.
that people aren't going to stop. And it's okay if they don't. They're not doing anything wrong. Is that the
Right.
lesson you want her to have on her first date? And then he stopped because like that was,
Yeah.
oh, well, someone else might do what I'm doing with less scruples.
Yep. And yeah, exactly. Yeah, Logan learned. I remember him. This was only the last couple years that I heard him singing the song. But the no, don't touch me there. That is my no square. Have you never heard that song before?
A, no. B, this is funny. I was watching the YouTubes earlier, just flipping through shorts while killing time, waiting for my podcast partner to come on. And
So,
I was flipping through shorts, and there was a clip from the first episode, I think, of Lucifer, where he met Trixie, the detective's daughter,
yeah.
at school, and she was being bullied. She got in trouble because she was being bullied, and she said, "I kicked them in their no touch box." And then she pointed down at his crotch and he goes, "Oh, good call. Good job." And I was like, "I've no touch box. What the fuck?" And then the first time I've seen that episode and I've seen that clip before and I just never clicked that. I like for the first time I noticed the term and then I didn't realize it's a term that you use often. So
Well, we just have that song, which I guess is famous because Alex has yelled at me for singing it because sometimes it gets stuck in my head, and we'll be editing stuff here and working on stuff, and I'll be like, "No, don't touch me there. That is my no square."
I
And
think
he's
he
like,
gets mad whenever you tell him not to touch you there.
"Fair." Um, he's gonna be so pissed when he finally
It's
sees
his
this
fault for
episode.
going on a fucking cruise.
Yeah.
Didn't ask
So
me.
you wouldn't have gone on a cruise.
No, but he didn't ask me.
No.
I want to
Anyway.
be asked.
Yeah. So I'm realizing that the pain medication is wearing off.
Oh no.
I
You're
got
gonna get
muscle
rational
relaxers.
but distracted.
Yeah. Um yeah, no, but I think that like there is, that I understand that like I think consent is fairly clear cut. There is some gray areas that I think we can have discussions on how to rationalize those. But those are never the ones that we talk like. Those are never the cases that become this,
But
right?
here, my gray area, I
Brock
have a gray
Turner, not a
area.
gray area. This, not a gray area. Sorry, go ahead.
My gray area is not on any of these cases. It's
Yeah,
I fully agree that if someone has been drinking, they are not able to give consent.
yeah,
And if you have, and so that moves things into assault. But I don't understand, like, but and I do it, and we say the
yeah,
fact that that person chose to drink does not make it their fault of what happened next.
Hmm.
At some point in their drinking, they went to unable to make a good decision, and that's not their fault. But when someone's drunk driving, we say the opposite. We say you chose to drink. You chose to drink to the point where you made a bad decision and couldn't rationally decide not to drive. Therefore, it's your fault. Like, so
Hmm.
it's very weird that our legal system has a completely opposite take on the same situation, depending on what happened at the end. Like, so
Yeah.
the person in the bar drinking is responsible for what they did if they walk out and drive, not responsible if they walk out with someone else.
Yeah.
It's very weird. That gets me. I don't know how to solve that because it does make sense in both cases, but something
Right.
about it doesn't make sense at the same time.
I
And I wonder
think.
if we should talk about after this the Cox Communications versus Sony Music Entertainment Supreme Court case, because I think it's related. But we can talk
Yeah,
about that. Yeah,
I don't know about that, but you can lead us there in a minute. As
sure.
far as the intoxication thing, I want to say is that I think the alcohol laws are never led by the alcohol, but they're just led by everything else. Because in
They're outcome based.
Massachusetts, yeah, they, oh, is it sexual assault? Then it's a sexual assault law. Oh, is it a driving law? Then it's a driving law, and then alcohol is secondary. I think in that logic at least. And I think that also because in Massachusetts, if you're a server, I know this because Sarah was a bartender for quite a while. If you overserve and someone drives away from your bar, you can be to some extent liable for as a bartender or as a bar owner for that person drinking and
And I
driving.
think in a lot of places, even at a private party at your house,
Oh,
like
okay, I didn't know that. Yeah.
we have a friend who I don't know if it's North Carolina law or he's just being careful, who does not serve alcohol at his house, but everything's BYOB. Like, bring alcohol to my house is fine, but you can't drink my alcohol. Like, he doesn't want to serve you. Or
Okay.
like like I once asked if I can give my son a beer before he was of age because he was about to go to Germany, and he goes, "I won't stop you from going in my refrigerator and getting one, but I'm not going to give you one to give to your underage son."
Yeah.
And then his wife helped me pick the beer, but she didn't hand it to me.
Right. Right. So there, like, if you can be held liable as a bartender, bar owner, homeowner, whatever, for a drunk driver, can you be held? And maybe the answer is yes, and I don't know this. If you overserve someone like Maddie Kowalski seems to have been overserved, is the bartender to some legal extent, uh, what do you call it?
Culpable, liable.
Culpable
Yeah.
for this, for her assault as well, because there's another
I
I would imagine
That's a great
because I
question. And I wonder, I would like if the answer is yes in some states, I'd love to see the state break. Maybe it's worth researching later
yeah
to see what the state breakdown is, because that would be a state law thing, right?
yeah
So there definitely be states where that's no way is that the case,
yeah
but there might be states where it is the case. And that's interesting.
right,
Because
and
it
I
also
think
it
that
puts a lot of pressure on you to make. I mean, like Leah, I've seen Leah, my lovely daughter, cut people off at the bar.
mhm,
Like, and and they're not falling down sloppy drunk. Well, okay,
yeah
the other day the guy did fall off his stool, and but he actually like was getting up and he slipped. Like, he wasn't really that drunk, and she was like, "I'm
yeah
still cutting you off." Like, she goes, "I saw you fall. If something
yep
were, like, I don't think you're drunk, but if something happened, it's still my fault. I
yeah
can't let you drink after I saw you fall."
right.
And yeah. Uh,
Also, oh, sorry, this is
but
where I
yeah, but
meant to go.
it is an interesting point. Yeah,
Right.
you're making that call.
So another in thing that is inconsistent in this logic is that, like, in not in North Carolina, I don't think, but in Massachusetts, you can be held liable as a server for over serving someone, but you can also be a server at 18. Like, you can serve alcohol at 18. So you can make that
Yeah,
decision for someone, but you cannot make that decision for yourself.
that's
And
really
that's
weird.
similar. It's
In North
similar when
Carolina, I know
you
I've had like an 18 or 19-year-old waiter, waitress,
right,
and when you order a drink,
a
someone comes with
manager or
them to
someone, yeah.
deliver the drink
Yeah.
because they can't carry the drink over to you.
Right,
Yeah,
but in Massachusetts, I don't think you can't be a bartender, but you can be a waiter or waitress that delivers alcohol
and
to
deliver a
tables.
drink the bartender poured, right?
Right, right, and which is kind of crazy that and that's similar. It's just another
Well,
inconsistency in
it's
this
really weird to put
logic.
it on wait staff. Like, to me, bartender and wait staff
Hmm.
is different level.
Sure.
But even in bartender, like, it's a challenging thing. Like, because I mean, depends on the location. I shouldn't say wait staff. A bar versus a restaurant. Like if I'm just hitting your table and say, yeah, here's a refill of your drink, here's another beer, and you're eating food, I've seen you 5 times during the course of the hour that you're there,
Yeah.
versus being in a bar and seeing you constantly and knowing how much you've drank. It's hard to judge what someone's drank when they're sitting there having a meal. They're not being boisterous. It's hard to keep track because
Yeah.
it's a restaurant situation. A bar situation seems different than a restaurant situation. But
I
even still, I
okay.
don't know how fair it is to put it on the bar staff, because on a busy night where Leah's insane, she doesn't know who's drinking
No,
what.
no, no.
One person walks to the bar and gets a new bottle of wine for the table. She doesn't know what each person at the table has drank, who the driver is.
Yeah. I would imagine. I mean, I think if I'm going to be generous to the crowd that I think will make this judgment, if for example the bartender in the Matt Kowalski situation were to become liable, which in Florida I can't imagine is one of those
Yeah.
states, but if they were, I think that crowd would be like, the bartender, is responsible for this. Which,
Mhm.
although to be fair, if it was happening at the bar, if the assault was happening at the bar, then yes,
Yeah.
absolutely too. That's a
Well, it happened in the bathroom apparently in this case, so not in plain sight of the bartender. I mean, part of it in my head is how big is the bar? Like if you're in a
yeah,
little neighborhood bar where you can see everything from the bar, that's different than you're
yeah,
at TGI Fridays and there's back rooms, there's turns,
yeah,
there's
yeah,
there's 4 bartenders in a sea of 1,000 people. It's I think it's worth having the law and worth determining in a court what was
yeah,
the case. Was should you have known in this case based on on occupancy and everything else going on? But
yeah.
I don't think anything legal is cut and dry in the legal
No,
world.
no, no, that's fair.
So
Yeah. And I've been in I've been in restaurants where there's, whether there's been a fight in the bathroom, or, I mean, restaurants or bars where there's been a fight, or somebody's clearly doing drugs in the
yeah,
bathroom, and like everyone's aware of it. So like if
yeah, you got to get
she was,
Dalton to take him out.
I don't know who Dalton is.
You
Is that
do.
the go?
You're a movie fanatic and you don't know who Dalton is?
If you,
The name is Dalton.
is
You're
it
hurting me.
Roadhouse?
Yeah, of course it's Roadhouse.
Okay, I've never seen Roadhouse. I'm not a big
Fuck
80s
you, man. What do
fan.
you mean you've never seen? I mean, you don't have to see the new shitty one, but you have to see the Swayze. It's a fucking Oscar-winning movie. It won 4 Oscars.
It won 4 Oscars.
Okay, maybe it didn't, but it should have.
I was gonna say there's no. I was gonna say if you told me it won Best Song, maybe, but
It could have. It had good music in it.
um,
He was pretty good guitar player for a
I like
blind white guy.
I like
It's a line
Patrick
from the
Swayze,
movie.
but I don't
Sorry.
love the '80s. I don't love the '80s movies. But
Roadhouse.
anyway,
It
it
was
was
really good. It
nominated for
actually is a
5
good movie.
awards, but none of them were Oscars. 5 Razzies. Literally, the only awards it was nominated for were Razzies.
So good. Polar
To
bear
be fair
fell
to
on me.
to be fair to Patrick Swayze, his nomination was shared between this performance and Next of Kin, which I've never heard of.
That is not a good movie.
Yeah.
It's a rednecky one. So Cox Communications versus Sony Music
Okay.
Entertainment. You're not familiar with it?
It sounds familiar, but freshen
Yeah.
me up.
Okay. So let me just, to connect it, one of the things that Maddie is saying in her videos is that it took a while for like X, Twitter, to take down the videos that were circulating and stop them. Like they're not there anymore,
Right.
apparently. I mean, they came down. And it took time for them to take it down. So another question, we're talking about culpability of the bartender and the
Yeah.
establishment. What's the culpability of the sites where this stuff is shared? And to gain insight into the answer, this last week, the Supreme Court decided on a case called Cox Communications Inc. versus Sony Music Entertainment, where Sony and I think maybe some other music owners, big corporations, were suing it's a bunch of websites and ISPs basically
Mhm.
for not doing enough to stop pirating of their music. Kind of like a Napster kind of situation. But I
Okay.
don't think it wasn't like a company making the software. It was like, your servers, people are using your website to download music. People are
Yeah.
using your servers to get to the music. and you should do more to protect our money. And the Supreme Court, um, oh God, I think it was like a either 8-1 or 7-2. Like it was an overwhelming um, case. Maybe been a nine
Yeah.
zero. I should Google that. Um, said that it's not the company's fault. Like they can't be held responsible for it. It's just too overwhelming for them to expect them to be able to do it.
Yeah.
9-0. Yeah. So and Thomas wrote the decision on March 25th.
Okay.
And Sotomayor and Jackson wrote a concurring opinion. They didn't give
Sure.
it. They didn't agree with all of his stuff, but they both agreed, saying Cox not is not liable for infringement of Sony's copyrights because it's unreasonable for them to do it.
Right.
But I think there is some. So it's not the same exact thing because
No.
it's not about illegal content, but it's a similar concept of how can I be like Twitter has so much going on. It's
Yeah.
reasonable as evil as they are for them to know everything that's happening. Even with AI is notoriously not good at things yet.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, Especially when they allow pornography on the site.
Right.
Hard for AI to determine what's illegal pornography, what's revenge porn.
Right.
So I think that's another interesting point of conversation is how
Yeah.
much should like
But when we
how
talked
much should we
about
be erring on the side of caution and having them scrub more stuff?
when we talked about the section, was it section 230 maybe a month
Yeah,
ago?
it's very tied into section 230. Yeah.
And it's I would say that, like, it's it's something where we need to have legal encouragement for companies to do their best, especially when you're talking about illegal materials, not necessarily like infringement upon. I know that infringement is an illegal act, but the materials that they're stealing or infringing upon are not illegal, right? But like child CSAM or whatever they call it now. I think it's CSAM, child sex abuse material. Yes.
I'm not as into that stuff as you are.
That we talked about it on the episode about 230, because that was one of the things is like, yeah, like if you're uploading to Pornhub, for example, they have algorithms to like, and they have bots that are checking to making sure that there is some form of consent, right? Of like, I think in most cases, if it's not like Vivid Entertainment or something, they're usually having creators show an
Them an
ID or
80s flashback.
so. But my point being is that if you go on to some of these some of these websites to upload content, they usually have some kind of verification process, at least to start. Like where you show an ID, and like I thought about posting
The Save Act
this.
for porn.
Sure. I mean, it makes sense for porn, right? Like not
Yeah,
to
you're a citizen to watch porn.
no, not to watch it, to upload or to make it. Like that does make
Save
sense.
Act, you have to prove you're a citizen in the Save
Yeah,
Act because you have to be a citizen to upload porn.
Gotcha. Yes, but anyway, my point being to show that you're over 18 and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And if Pornhub can do it, and say like, okay, and if anything that isn't either from one of those big companies that we know they're doing the verification themselves, or we're doing the verification on the amateurs, then there isn't that big of a deal to do it. I understand that when you're on other sites that aren't requiring, like YouTube, like if YouTube has a good like no nudities allowed, whatever, they
But if
can
you're talking about
set
something
that.
like Reddit or X,
Yeah.
where that's not what the site is about, but they don't censor
Stop it.
that on the
Yes.
site either. Yeah.
Right. So that's what I mean. My point was that like I can see the argument. I mean, I think it's similar to like we can't hold websites responsible for everything that's on there if they're an open forum website to some extent. Now, I think that we can encourage them to build in, like I wouldn't be against, like for Reddit, for example, like if you
Right.
want to
I
upload
think it's different between
nudity,
what's legal and what's should be required.
yeah,
Or there should be
and
like laws about how much effort they have to make and how often they have to revise that effort when new technology is coming out to make sure there's progress happening. You're not doing what you did in 1984. There should be laws around making sure you're keeping up with the most effective things, even if you're not going to be liable per
Right.
case. You should be
Right.
saying, well, we have AI now. You should be using AI for this. This is an ethical use of AI to try to catch this shit. You
Yeah.
know, versus
Yep.
you couldn't possibly screen it all before.
Right. Right. And so we can do better. We don't necessarily have to assume that we can be perfect, but we can. There is room for improvement. But I think maybe we should start wrapping things up. What do you think?
Okay, if you want to rap, I'll listen to your rap. You're the Eminem fan. All that stuff.
All right. I need to figure out a different phrase to use so that you don't make that same joke every week.
That's what I
For
think every time you say it.
all right. You start us off because you do the beginning part.
Hey, this is a video that we both gave consent to upload.
Mhm.
But your side of the contract here, the social contract, is that you should like this video. You should share this video to people if you think the conversation was interesting. You should follow our channel by subscribing to it. You should even ring the ding, 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 the notification bell so you know when there's new videos, when there's new lives. So you may not know this, and you don't because only Ricochet Rita is in the chat right now. But you could have been watching this live and heard all the stuff that I said that Mike edited out before the version that you're actually seeing and or hearing.
Yeah.
So if you want to get everything for free, unedited, all the shit, even some stuff from before the record starts officially, all you have to do is subscribe to the YouTube channel and ring the bell, and you'll know when we go live, usually at 6:30 or a little before on Mondays.
Yeah. And if you want to get all that stuff and you're willing to wait until the next day or whatever, and you would rather give us money to do so, you can go to patreon.com/talking about the big stuff. There we have 4 options. We have a free option, which basically comes with all the same stuff, but it's a better way of updating of letting yourself remember. And there's the $1 version, which gets you the episodes a couple days early. There's the $3 version, which gets you most of that extra stuff that Matthew was talking about, and then there is the $10 version, which gets you a little bit of like bonus content at the beginning. And yeah, that's kind of the whole deal. And you should go do that at patreon.com/talking about the big stuff.
And just to be clear,
And
with the exception of finding out that we're going live through the Patreon, everything else Patreon is audio. So it's you get the live uncut video, but then we're talking about audio feeds coming a couple of days later and stuff. Right?
no, well, if you're using the feed through other places, but it is video. So
Okay.
RSS feeds don't do video. They don't push out
So you
video,
can get
but
the audio or the video by being a Patreon member.
right. So yeah,
You can
like
stick it
if
in
you
your
go on
ear holes while
Spotify
you're
or
driving, but don't watch us while you're driving.
yeah, Spotify, Patreon, and YouTube are all video formats. As you use those for RSS anywhere else, it will not be video because RSS does not support that. Anyway, Matthew, any last thoughts?
I just want to thank everyone for being here talking about the big stuff. We appreciate the fact that you came of your own free will and you stayed.